dinner, go to Panera, go to Starbucks. I always get funny looks when I say that. They're like, wait a second, Kevin, as a financial professional, you're going to help people find money they didn't know they had, and then you're going to tell them to take half of that money and go blow it. You guys aren't very good at this financial planning thing, are you? No, we're not. We're amazing at it. Why? Because if you reward the good behavior, you're more likely to get more of that good behavior. Kind of learned that growing up on the ranch, didn't I? So when we help people find that money and enjoy today, you don't do everything today, right? We're going to help them get started on something, and then in a year or two, we'll do a little bit more and a little bit more, and we'll start improving that. Just like going to the gym, you don't walk in day one and have washboard abs the next day. There's a process to that. There's a process to building that up. And we take people through that, and that industry changed. Somebody had to decide how we're going to do that for Middle America. Because here's the stats, guys. Just baby boomers alone, people born between 1946 and 1964, there are 76 million baby boomers out there. The front edge of them have reached retirement age. And most of them, once they reach 65, couldn't even start to retire. Who here knows someone over 65 still working? All right? What kind of jobs? I mean, think about my idea of my golden years working at the Golden Arches. That doesn't sound like a very good idea, right? Think about the average age of a Walmart greeter. Is there something wrong with that, right? If you want to work, that's great. But if you're doing it because you have to work to pay for your medical bills or whatever, something's wrong with that picture. And the baby boomers, they're going to live, here's the scary part, the average baby boomer is expected to live until they're 90. We just said, are Americans good savers or poor savers?
Poor.
And yet they're supposed to retire at 65 and somehow live on that little meager amount that they saved up all the way until they're 90. There's a challenge with that, guys, right? On top of that, though, the next generation behind them, right, you have the Gen X and then Gen Y. Gen Y is as big as the baby boomer generation. Luckily, they saw what happened to their grandparents and parents. They're more focused on investing than any other generation prior to them. So anyone born between 81 and 2000 is part of that generation. And then, of course, Gen X in the middle, Gen X has started doing a really good job catching up on the investing. But here's the sad thing. The sad part of it is, if you look at the top of that screen, I apologize, in the back it may be hard to see, so I'm going to call off some of the numbers here. The average household in America, when it comes to setting aside money for their future, for their retirement, the average household across all age ranges from 25 to 64, so anyone in that working age kind of age range, 25 to 64, the average family has $3,000 set aside for their future. Guys, that will not even cover a transmission going out in your car. And that's supposed to be your retirement plan. Well, Kevin, there's some 25-year-olds in there, so they're probably skewing it. Right? What if you just talk about the older people? What if you talk about people who are 55 to 64? Just the near term, 55, less than 10 years away from when they're supposed to be able to retire. The average family across America, the land of the free, home of the brave, streets are paved with gold. The average family has $12,000 set aside over 55 years old. If that's a scary number, can I get an eye? Right? Holy cow. Something's wrong, guys. As a company, we decided something has to change. Well, Kevin, what's that yellow line down there? What's that? Why is that over there at 100,000? That's of those families 55 to 65 that actually have a 401k or a retirement account through work, which should scare the heck out of you. Look how different those two lines are if you take all households versus just the ones with a retirement account. So that's telling you that most families do not have access to retirement accounts because a lot of employers have stopped people on full-time and they've moved them back to part-time so they don't have to pay all the benefits for them. So there's a lot of people that are having to work 2 part-time jobs because they can't get the full-time jobs anymore. The trend is crazy, guys. But even that, well, Kevin, if they're 55 to 64 and they got $100,000, they're doing okay, aren't they? What's the median income in Middle Tennessee? What, like a husband and wife working, what's like the average income for 2 people in Middle Tennessee?
60,000.
About 60,000, right? 50, 60,000. If you're used to making $60,000 a year, when you retire, what % of your income do you want to lose when you retire? All in favor of none, say aye. Right? So if you're making $60,000 a year and all you've got saved up is $100,000, how long are you retiring?
2 years.
And you're done. All the money's gone at that point. Back to work. What happens when you can't anymore? Got to rely on family, right? Guys, we said no more. As a company, we said this has to change. We got to do something different going forward. Otherwise, we're going to be a country of impoverished old people. It used to be you had 3 legs to the stool. You had a stool that has 3 legs. It's pretty sturdy, right? The 3 legs of retirement used to be pensions, personal or Social Security, and personal savings. Pension plans. What percent of companies even offer pensions anymore? Any idea? Like none. Like maybe 1%. Used to be 70% of companies had a pension plan. The company would take care of you when you work for them. Does that happen anymore? Do people even work for companies for 40 years anymore? Right? Very, very seldom. That most people are like changing every 5 to 7 years, changing jobs like they change cars. So pension plans are gone. That leg of the stool. Now you're on a 2-legged stool. Social Security. How you guys feeling about Social Security? Social insecurity, scared, right?
What is that?
What is that? And people look at their statement. We just did taxes, right? It was tax time. So everyone look at their little thing, right? How much Social Security you paid in, right? Social Security tax. And a lot of people are confused on this. They think that when they're paying into Social Security, they're putting money in their own little bucket. Do you realize that Social Security is not your little bucket? It's a pool that you're putting money into. And that you have the people who are working, putting money in, you have the people who are retired, have their straws in your milkshake, drinking milkshake out of your cup. What happens when 76 million people go from the paying side to the receiving side of that ledger? The math does not sustain it. In fact, if you get your little, it's so funny, you get the little statement that says how much money you might make, and it even says, yeah, on the second page, we think we're going to be broke at this point, but that's okay. Here's how much we think you might make. Right? So Social Security is not going to be there. So it means it relies, if we're really going to be able to retire, on personal savings. And did we just said Americans are good savers or poor savers? Poor savers. So something has to change, guys. Something's got to be done differently. We feel financial education is not just important, it's crucial. But also having that balance we talked about, enjoy today and save for later. Like a little teeter-totter here, you can see it's kind of a teeter-totter. You want to have that balance of enjoy today and save. You can't just save for later because you don't know if you're going to have a later. Right? But you also can't just blow everything today and let tomorrow take care of itself because tomorrow may not take care of itself. Right? There's got to be some balance on those two things, and that's one of the first things we do is we help people make sure that balance is in place for their families. And how we do that, every other financial planner on the planet charges between $500 to $2,500 to sit down and have a conversation with you about your finances. I'm sorry, Middle America, if they had $2,500, they wouldn't want to spend that on talking about a financial plan. They'd actually want to put that into their financial plan. All in favor, say aye. Right? So, I mean, think about it. If I walked out into downtown, right, Mount Juliet, and I knocked on someone's door and said, hey, give me $1,500, I'll do a financial plan for you. They'd say, hey, get off my front porch. Middle America wants money working for them, not how they're spending it to talk about having money working for them. So how we help people find that money that they don't even know they have, right? We help people through the 6 steps of a financial plan, but rather than charge $500 to $2,500 to do that, we do it for free. 0. Why? Why do we do that for 0? Because if we're truly going to go help the people who desperately need the help, we had to figure out a way to get that information, that financial education in their hands to make those changes. I'll explain how we can afford to do that in a second, but I want you to understand the value, because sometimes we devalue things if there's not a big price tag on it, that, oh, it must not be worth anything. Guys, we have the state-of-the-art software and tools to do the financial planning side as a service to the people that we're helping. So there's 6 areas you need to be concerned with. You've got cash flow. Well, yeah, you want to earn additional income. Great, Kevin. I'm glad I took time out of my life on a Tuesday night for you to tell me I need to make more money. You're a jerk. Yeah, you want to make some more money, but on top of that, learning to manage those expenses, making sure we cut out some of the things, and I'm not talking about don't have a latte. Remember I said we're going to find money so you can actually go to Starbucks and have the latte. There's some balance things that we can do, though, on managing some expenses. We're going to get rid of some debt. We're going to consolidate, strive to eliminate the debt. Just for a moment, imagine that. For a lot of Americans, the stress of debt, their credit card debt, their car payments, their house payments, just for a moment, I want you to go ahead and imagine that by walking in here tonight, that all of your debt was eliminated. That somebody else just wrote a check and paid off all your creditors. Take a deep breath and just kind of let that out for a second. Doesn't that feel kind of good? Okay, now back to reality. You really still have the debt, right? So I'm sorry, right? But to get someone there, to get rid of that debt, do you understand that the Bible says love of money is bad? Not money, love of money is bad, right? That causes some bad things to happen. Guess what else causes bad things to happen? Lack of money. Right? There's some bad things that happen in this world when there's a lack of money. Most of the divorces in this country revolve around the arguments in the household, and the arguments in the household are primarily about what? And it ain't, honey, we got too much. That's typically not the argument that's going on. Right? So we got to strive to eliminate some of that debt. Emergency fund. You want 3 to 6 months worth of income. 3 to 6 months worth of income set aside in case a hot water heater goes out, in case you get 2 flat tires. I mean, most families are 4 flat tires away from filing bankruptcy. Right? They don't have the excess. They don't have the money saved up. Guys, income doesn't matter on this. I sit down with doctors where the husband and wife are both doctors, making $300,000 a year each, still living paycheck to paycheck. Like, how's that possible? Well, think about yourself. How's it possible you're in the situation you're in? At one point, you didn't have any of that debt, but things happen, right? And the typical problem is sometimes we try and keep up with the Joneses and spend money on things we don't need to impress people we don't even like. So, we got to help get rid of some of that. Emergency fund, have that money set aside for those unexpected expenses. Proper protection, make sure you're protected against loss of income, protect the family's assets. Right? My dad did not have any of that in place, so thus some of the challenges now, don't get me wrong, some of those challenges have made me who I am, so it's not that, every bad financial adversity is a bad. So some of you who are going through some financial challenges, this may be a blessing later on, because it may give you some motivation to take some action with us tonight to actually go change your financial future. So the event isn't bad, it's our decisions after the event that are good or bad, right? What we actually do with that. So making sure there's proper protection in place, building wealth. Strive to outpace inflation, minimize taxation. Using some professional money management, strive to outpace inflation, minimize taxation. What's the inflation right now? The cost of a chair, cost of a table goes up about how much each year? What percentage? 3%. About 3 to 4%. If we go get a savings account at the bank right now, what kind of interest rates are banks paying on savings accounts? 0.02. She's like, I just pulled up my statement during my taxes. I got 30 cents right in interest this year. I actually sat down with someone, helped. They got 30 cents in interest this year on their savings account. 30 cents. You can't even buy a pack of gum with that anymore, right? Remember, you used to be able to get a quarter, but now it's actually gone past. You can't even buy a pack of gum. 30 cents. That's how much your interest you earn. 0.00 something percent. Let's say you're able to get 1%. Right? 1%, inflation is 3%. Are you moving up or are you moving back? Going backwards. You've got to get a higher rate of return. You've got to outpace inflation and then reduce some taxes. But the biggest challenge to your future financially is not inflation or taxation. The biggest threat to your financial future is procrastination. Not doing something about it, not making a change, not getting some right advice, not taking a little baby step down the right path to change that for you. So we make sure that we help people find the money to eliminate the procrastination part, and then we get the right products and services on the inflation and taxation to beat inflation and minimize taxation. And if you do, the funny thing about this, if all we did was sit down and help someone start on that, there's something that happens psychologically. When you have money in savings, when you have investments that are growing, and You walk into a business meeting at work and you know you got a financial platform that's stable, and the boss is telling you something that you know is wrong. I mean, incorrect, bad for the company, bad for the employees. If you're worried about your job, you may not say something about that. If you have a financial base underneath you, you can afford to give them your honest opinion. You can afford to be truthful in those situations, which makes you a way more valuable person in those companies anyway. But the reality is, when you have that financial base,